Hello, ladies. Happy Wednesday, or whenever you're watching this replay. This is week 9 of the Nourish project, and I'm doing something a little different this week. I'm just recording the teaching part of the call. We had a couple women come for their one-on-ones, but I'm just recording this separately so you can watch it all in your free time. So let's get right to it. I am going to share my screen and pull up my slides. Tonight, we are talking about another pillar of intentional eating that is eating beyond macros. So really talking about food quality and the choices of the quality of your food and different choices that you're making food wise within those macro targets. So not taking away anything that we did before in terms of your calorie goal or hitting protein, carbs, and fat, or doing a high carb day, low carb day, carb cycling. None of that, but within those pillars, we're going to talk about what might be better choices and why. Again, nothing is restricted, nothing is off limits. So it's not like I'm saying you can never have a donut, you can never have flaming hot Cheetos or whatever it is that like is your heart's desire. That is one of the most important tenets to me of intentional eating and macro-based nutrition, is that nothing is off limits. You can have whatever is your favorite food. However, if you have fat loss goals, weight loss goals, or just want to be healthier and feel better, there are certain choices that you can make to intentionally eat more of certain kind of food within each of those macro targets. So that's what we're going to be talking about tonight. Let's go right here. Okay, we're just going to get right into it. So we're talking about eating better, like I said, starting with water, which is obviously not one of the 3 macros, but super, super duper important. And it is key for hydration, obviously, but some things that people don't always know, and I may not have mentioned before, is it helps your metabolism. Drinking water increases your metabolism. I'm not sure. There's not a lot of like clear science on this, but some people say that drinking colder water increases your metabolism more. And the reason is because when you drink the water, your body has to bring it up to your internal body temp. So it's the equivalent of putting a pot of water on a stove and you have to get it to boiling. It takes energy to warm it up. So the colder the water, the more it has to warm it up to get it to your internal body temp of 97 degrees. Water also helps your body deal with stress. It helps with digesting protein. And I know, as you know, I have clients increase the amount of their protein. Sometimes you may have sort of digestion issues, or it feels like it's kind of like sitting in your gut, or maybe you're a little bit constipated. Drinking more water will really help with that in particular, but your digestion in general. Water also helps with mental clarity and focus, much better than a cup of coffee actually does, even though I know we all reach to coffee. It helps control hunger cravings. A lot of times we think we're hungry, but we're actually dehydrated or need something to drink. So drinking water when you feel like you're hungry or craving something may take care of those cravings. Also helps with physical performance. And because of all these things, it helps you lose weight. One practical tip, and this is going to be the first part of a 2-part challenge for this week, is the rules of drinking water. I just learned this, and I'm really excited to share this with all of you and give you this challenge for the week. Here's the challenge. Do not drink water while you're eating a meal. Here's the reason. A lot of time people are drinking water either just because they have, water or some liquid while they're eating, or because they're trying to get their water goal. And instead of chewing our food as much as we're supposed to properly digest it and taste it. You're just kind of washing it down with water. And there's studies that show that when people stop drinking liquids, in particular water, with their meal, they actually eat 10% fewer calories because you're forced to actually chew your food before you can really swallow it. And that helps with the digestion. It slows you down, gives you the proper cues to know when your body's full. So if you think, oh, I need to get my water, what to do instead is to drink a big glass, maybe like 20 ounces of water, approximately 20 to 30 minutes before you eat. So this is actually going to give your body, help you feel more full, like I just talked about earlier, and kind of take away some of those cravings and hunger cues if you're just dehydrated. And then I have this example at the bottom of the screen, Japanese culture versus Nathan's hot dog eating contest. If you're kind of trying to picture this in your head, in Japanese culture, which I think is always sort of like very classy and refined, and very healthy, they do this practice of drinking a big glass of water 30 minutes before a meal. Versus if you've ever watched Nathan's hot dog eating contest at Coney Island on the 4th of July, or really any like big food eating contest, what do the contestants do? They chug water to wash down the food so that they don't even really need to chew it and they can eat more. Okay, so that's like a really exaggerated example, but that is literally what happens when we're watching TV and just like washing it down with water. We end up eating a lot more, not digesting the food as well, not getting those fullness cues, because we're just eating so fast to get on to the next thing. So that is your challenge for this week. Number 1 challenge out of 2 is stop drinking water while you're eating. Instead, have a big glass before, after, or both. Okay. All right, moving on. So talking about macros today, and in particular, food quality beyond macros. So this graphic, these 2 meals, it says they're both 18-20 calories. I can tell just by looking at it that they're not the same macros, but let's just say for the sake of an example that they did have the same macros. One of these clearly looks healthier. It also looks like a lot more food, like a lot more volume. So we're going to talk about today why this meal on the right with all the fruits, veggies, water, tea, looks healthier, looks more appetizing, more appealing. Like you just know, like, well, that's the healthier meal, but why and how is it going to affect your body differently? Okay, so first thing we're going to talk about is, we're not going to the first thing yet. We'll just talk a little bit more about the thermogenic effect of food. So we have talked about this before in the Nourish Project, but I want to remind you what that is and why it's so important. So the thermogenic effect of food means that certain food that you eat can boost your metabolism. So it takes your body work to make these foods digestible and ready to use as fuel or building block for muscles or as water in your body. So the different things we talked about, water has a thermogenic effect because it has to get brought up to your internal body temp. The other 2 big categories of food are protein and fiber, which is found in whole unprocessed foods, grains, vegetables, leafy greens, fruits, stuff like that. Seeds and nuts, legumes, beans, those sort of things as well have a lot of fiber. So you can think of it as your body has to do work to break down food. And if it's whole food, picture that being like a bookshelf made by some like Amish craftsmen out of solid wood, and you want to break it down to build a bonfire. Excuse me. And the other hand, you have a bookshelf made by IKEA out of particle board that you put together in your college dorm, and you still have it, and you want to break it down to make a bonfire. which of those two options is going to take more work for you to break down to throw on the fire? Clearly, the Amish solid, unprocessed wood is going to, and that's exactly how whole food operates in your body versus processed food. Not only that, but once you put it on the fire, that whole unprocessed food or bookshelf is going to burn stronger. It's going to burn for longer. It's going to keep the fire going longer. That is like fueling your metabolism. Same thing with protein and whole unprocessed food. It's going to keep you feeling full. It's going to keep you feeling satisfied. It's going to keep you energized, and it's going to keep fueling your body for longer, even if the calories and the macros are the same. Okay, so it's really important. I cannot emphasize that enough. And that is why what I teach you guys is intentional eating rather than just macros. If it fits your macros diet, you could have a donut and egg whites and hit your macros and be like, boom, I'm done. You definitely could lose weight, but it's going to be much healthier and much easier for you to lose fat and hit your goals if you replace that donut and egg whites with a bunch of fruits and vegetables, along with, the egg whites and other sources of protein. One last thing about this thermic effect of food, this naturally slows down a little bit as you age, but you can build this up. So it's kind of a use it or lose it thing. The more you do when you're younger, that you get that quote unquote muscle memory in your body, the better off you're going to be as your body goes naturally through the aging process. So it's never too late, but it is really important that we just keep doing that and keep giving our body that high thermogenic effect type of food. Okay, so the first macronutrient, protein, the magic macronutrient. So we've gone over protein a lot, and I just want to go through a couple key points. A lot of these I touched on in my 10 protein commandments that I recorded for all of you, and that is in the Facebook group. So if you haven't seen that, go to it. I go through like 10 really important protein commandments to help you hit your protein goals and enjoy your life. So go check that out. So a couple things I want to touch on today. Number one, the essential amount of protein versus the optimal amount. So if you sort of just Google, like, how much protein should I have? The answer is all over the board. The reason is because some of the recommendations are like the USDA daily amount recommendations. That is like to keep you alive. That is not the ideal amount or the optimal amount for body transformation, fat loss, muscle development. The optimal amount for whatever our goals are in this program, health, fat loss, weight loss, muscle building, is 1 gram per pound of lean body weight. And if that's too much for you, it's too much for a lot of people, and that's no problem, but you always want to be kind of pushing like in baby steps to get closer to that 1 gram per pound number. Now, you could survive on a lot less, and if you Google it, that's the number you might see, but the optimal amount is getting much closer to that 0.8 to 1 gram of protein per pound of body weight. Another thing that you may be curious or even Googled or seen conflicting information is protein timing. So there's sort of like a marketing gimmick around protein shakes, protein powder, that you need to eat it 30 minutes after your train. Like you have to like, boom, get it. That is not true if you are regularly eating protein throughout the day and you're eating that high amount, that optimal amount of protein. Now, if you're working out fasted, which please don't do that. I have had clients who completely wreck their metabolism by doing that. But if you haven't eaten breakfast, or you're only getting closer to that essential for life amount of protein versus the optimal amount, then it may be more important to get that protein right after you work so that your muscles can repair and rebuild. But all of you should be eating 25 to 30 grams of protein 3, 4, 5 times a day. And so getting that in, 30 minutes, within 30 minutes right after your workout isn't so critical in that case. It can be helpful, and I'll talk about this a little bit lower down the slide. It can be helpful to just have a protein shake or a scoop of protein powder and some water if you're having trouble getting to your protein goal and you just have a quick shake right after your workout, and then you drive home or you drive to work and then you have an actual meal when you get there. And that's not because of that 30-minute window is really important, but it's because it's just like a way to get that protein up without getting a ton of extra calories. So as far as protein, like everything, whole food is best. So if you can get your protein through chicken, eggs, yogurt, dairy, meat, that sort of stuff, definitely the best choice. However, it's really hard to get that much protein through whole food sources, both because of how much time it takes to cook everything, wash all the dishes, everything like that. Also because protein is the most filling macronutrient. So you might try to eat that much protein in whole food and you might be like, Annie, I'm actually stuffed. Like I can't even get to that. I can't even get to that number. In that case, I recommend everyone have a good go-to protein powder that you can make a protein shake. You can throw it in some oatmeal. You can make some protein cereal, mix it in with some yogurt. It's super versatile. It's also really easy to digest. And that's where protein powder will be considered like processed food. It should be really easy for your body to digest. So almost just like you're, drinking water or something like that. You shouldn't feel super full afterwards. You shouldn't feel bloated or gassy. If you do, you may need to switch your source of protein for your protein powder. Whey might be a problem if you're lactose intolerant or you need a non-dairy option. But there's tons of different kinds. So just be aware that your protein powder, whatever kind it is, it should go down really smoothly. It should not fill you up. It should not cause like any sort of digestive issues. If you have questions about it or want some recommendations, definitely reach out to me. But otherwise, key is just aim for mostly whole foods, but also have that protein powder there in your back pocket, to add to stuff or in a pinch. How to get more protein? Double up in every meal. What I mean when I say that is don't have eggs and toast for breakfast. Have 2 eggs with protein, with egg whites and chicken sausage. Don't have steak for dinner. Have steak and shrimp. Don't have, just chicken breast. Have like chicken breasts and chicken thighs together. You double up, and it's also a good way to have like a more lean source of protein, which tends to not have as much flavor, with a higher fat source of protein. So you're getting, you're getting sort of the mix, you're getting the flavor, but also the protein boost without the fat. Another thing I like to do is casseroles that typically call for ground beef, like lasagna, tater tot casserole, ground beef tacos, anything like that. I will double up with the ground beef and then lean ground turkey and mix it together. And you get the flavor from the higher fat ground beef with the additional protein from the lean ground turkey. Okay, the decision tree. I already talked about this a little bit, but if you are hungry and you're, not able, you haven't hit all your calories, don't go for a protein shake to get your protein. Go for a whole food source like meat, dairy, still make that macro balanced plate, but use whole food. It's going to fill you up and keep you full for a lot longer. Conversely, if you're actually like not hungry, but you still have to meet your protein goal, just have like protein powder, shake it up with water. It shouldn't be really that filling. It should be very easy to digest. And it's a great thing to have, like I mentioned, right after your workout, before bed, where you can boost your protein without really feeling like super full. And last thing I have to say about protein is protein bars are just candy bars in cuter outfits. So they're okay in a pinch, but really don't rely on them to hit your protein goal too much. Okay, moving on. We are talking about carbs. So one thing that is very helpful when you are choosing your carbs is aiming for low glycemic eating. What that means is the glycemic index is how fast your body converts carbs into glucose, which is blood sugar, or how quickly your blood sugar, the glucose, will rise after eating the food. So the higher the number, the faster the food is digested, and the lower, the slower. So low GI is good. You can just remember that. Low GI is good, high GI is bad. Typically, lower GI foods tend to be more complex carbs, high in fiber, lower in sugar. High glycemic is the opposite. It's more processed food, lower in fiber, higher in sugar. And that is the kind of food where you eat it, again, even if the macros are the same, the calories are the same, the carbs are the same. If you're eating that high GI food, the processed, sugary, low fiber stuff, it's going to leave you hungry very quickly. When you've already used your allotted calories and carbs, it's going to crash your blood sugar. So you're going to have a spike and then a crash. You're going to be hungry and you're going to be drained of energy. Conversely, if you're having more of the low glycemic food, that is going to keep your blood sugar nice and steady. It's going to be slow to digest, and that additional fiber is going to fill you up and keep you feeling full and satisfied for longer. There's a lot of science behind it, which I'm not going to go into tonight, but it also really helps with avoiding overeating and getting your fat cells to release the stored fat. The science behind it is really, really, really interesting. And if you are interested and you want to get into the really geeky science, nutrition, how fat cells work, I recommend this book called Always Hungry. And then the subtitle is Conquer Cravings, Retrain Fat Cells, Lose Weight Permanently. You don't have to go on to all that. If you just, the only thing you take away is more fiber, good, more sugar, bad, that's enough. But if you are interested more, I will send the link to this book to grab at the library or your local bookstore. I'm also going to post the slides. So I have a chart attached. This may be hard to see, while I'm talking, but just sort of the GI index of different foods. So again, high GI index means it's higher in sugar, lower in fiber. It's going to cause your blood sugar to spike more. Lower is better. So if you're looking at fruits, even within fruit, same number of calories, there's like the tropical fruits have the very high GI, berries, citrus, apples tend to have lower GI. So again, the lower GI number is going to be the better choice. Within grains and starches, you can look at this on your own time, but with all of them, you'll see it's kind of like the more fiber, the less sugar, the better it's going to be. Some of them are a little bit surprising. So I really encourage you to look at this number and see where some of your favorite foods fall. For example, green beans are not higher, but like artichokes are like higher of the vegetables, but root vegetables are really pretty high compared to like regular vegetables or green leafy vegetables. But if you're having sweet potatoes, parsnips, those get pretty high. But like you notice, sweet potato is much lower than a regular white potato. It's significantly lower. Again, even though the macros and the calories are pretty much the same. So it's just something interesting to look at, think about, and like play around with, seeing how you feel if you make some lower GI choices. Again, just like 80-20 rule with that stuff, if you try to aim for like 80% of your choices coming from lower GI foods, vegetables, whole wheat, anything, steel cut oatmeal, whole fruit, beans, legumes, nuts, green leafy vegetables, and like 20% or less of your food choices where they're the higher GI foods, you're going to be doing really well. And if you don't have this chart or access to it, a good rule of thumb is higher fiber is going to be good. It's going to be the lower GI, and then higher sugar is going to be bad. It's going to be a higher GI number. So net carbs is sort of similar concept. You may have heard of net carbs, if you're familiar with keto. It's a pretty big marketing play because companies can say, we only have like X number of net carbs. We have 2 net carbs. Don't get sucked into the marketing ploy that is net carbs. So what the actual equation is, what net carbs is the total carbs minus the fiber minus 1/2 of the sugar alcohols. And that's because most fiber passes through your body undigested, and sugar alcohol there's not as much science on it, but it doesn't really interact with your body. It feeds gut bacteria in your large intestine, but it kind of passes through. But they're not counted in net carbs because neither is converted to glucose for energy. The reason I do not like net carbs, and we don't track only net carbs in the Nourish Project or anyone that's working with me, is because fiber is important. I know you all have seen people doing keto where they're eating like a high fat burger and cheese with avocado and bacon, and that's all. Or maybe no avocado, maybe just like a bacon on bacon sandwich. Fiber is really important. And so if we just look at the net carbs and we like discard the fiber, we're discarding a really important nutritional marker. So we want to track both your total carbs and the fiber, because those calories are important, the carbs are important, and the fiber is important as well. Now, carbs underestimates the net effect and the glycemic load of the food. So we just don't do that. But if you've ever wondered what it is, that's what it is. Fiber, I've already talked a lot about it tonight, about why it's so important. So that is my second challenge for you ladies this week. The first one being hitting your water goal without eating during your meals. The second one is going to be to increase your fiber. So look at what you're hitting. Aim for 25 grams of fiber per day. If you're not close to it, I want you to start inching that number up and see what you can do to get that fiber number up while you're still hitting your carb and calorie targets. If you are already at that 25, that's awesome. See if you can, aim for 30 and really pay attention to how you feel, how your energy is, your digestion, stuff like that, as you increase that fiber number. So where to find fiber? It comes in carbs. Avocado is a great source of both fiber and healthy fat. Veggies, green leafy veggies, starchy veggies, Isogenics, my shakes, has 8 grams of fiber. So it's a great way for me to start the morning. But really watch, because if you are just drinking protein powder, that's not going to have any fiber in it. So there's no fiber in protein and there's no fiber in fat. It's straight from carbs and from veggies and things that grow in the ground that are carbs. Some fat sources do grow in the ground. Here's a chart. I will post this in the Facebook group as well, and I'll share the slides, but the summary is leafy vegetables, starchy vegetables, seeds, beans, nuts, legumes. That's where you're going to find your fiber. So I'm excited to see you all boost up that fiber this week and see how you feel about it. Okay, I have 2 more things to go over: fat and alcohol. So fat, here is the good, the bad, the ugly. So even though I don't really like to use the words healthy and unhealthy, good or bad food, that's generally how we talk about fat. So I'm just gonna talk about it that way. So there's healthy fats and then the bad fats, right? So the healthy fats are really actually good for you and good for your body. And we have to start differentiating between dietary fat, the fat that we eat, and body fat, the fat that we want to get rid of. But we do need a little, at least, for essential functions of our body. So the healthy fats have a lot of really important role to play in our body. They help lower the risk of heart disease, lower the risk of stroke, lower the bad LDL cholesterol, increase the good HDL cholesterol. So again, just like the carbs, 80% of your choices should be coming from these like healthy fats columns. So what are they? Monounsaturated fats come from plants, avocados, olives, nuts, and legumes like peanuts. Also polyunsaturated plant fats, which could come plants or animals, fatty fish, soy milk, tofu, or seeds such as flaxseed, pumpkin seed, sunflower seed, sesame, and chia. And those seeds are also a good source of fiber. Ding, ding, ding. So that is a great option. Also in this category of healthy fats are coconut and coconut oil. And they have those medium chain triglycerides, which are really good for your brain health. And it's a good fat, healthy for you. On the other column is the bad fats, the unhealthy fats, and there's really not that many on this list, actually. But what they do is raise your bad LDL cholesterol, lower the good cholesterol, increase the risk of heart disease, obesity, and other lifestyle diseases. And there's starting to be more science to the contrary. So I don't want to put such a huge emphasis on this one until we really, really know for sure. But one is saturated fats, which come from animals. So these are your typical red meat, chicken skin, butter, dairy. I would recommend to eat these in lesser amounts than you're eating the good, healthy fats. But there's starting to be science showing that's not that bad for us. So again, that one is not entirely written in stone, whereas the healthy fats, we know these are really good for you. So we know the healthy fats are really good for us. Is like questionable about the saturated fats, but the traditional wisdom is that these are not good for us. Starting to debunk that. What's not being debunked and is still totally true is trans fatty acids. These are fats that are made in a laboratory. There's nothing natural about them. They don't come from animals, they don't come from plants, and they should not go in your body. So these are artificial fats used to extend the shelf life of products such as pastries, cookies, donuts, muffins, cakes, fried foods, packaged snacks. So anything that's like high fat processed food that has a long shelf life, it's going to maybe have those trans fatty acids. So something to look out for and something to avoid. Okay. All right. We are moving on. The last thing I want to talk about tonight is alcohol. Again, like water, this is not actual macro, but a lot of us like to have a drink from time to time. So I want to go over just the pros and the cons and how to track that. So I have to be honest with you guys, there really are actually not a ton of pros for alcohol, but I thought hard and put a couple on the list because it's really important to me how we think about food, and I'll put alcohol in that category. So if you can responsibly have alcohol, if you decide to make that choice, it's important to know that nothing's off limits and you can have whatever you want, but I want you to be fully informed and make a choice that will help you hit your goals. I've actually had some clients say, it's just not worth it. Like, I'd rather eat real food now that I have to track the macros for this. And if that's the only reason that you're drinking less, like, that is a-okay. But here's a couple pros and then like the real truth about the cons. So it can be fun in a social setting. It can complement a great meal. If you think of like a glass of wine with a steak or like a beer with a burger, and really elevate a meal. And it can have antioxidants like red wine. However, I would argue there are much better sources of antioxidants that don't involve alcohol. So that's not a real strong one. The cons, The biggest one is that the body sees alcohol as a toxin. And so what it does is it halts your entire metabolic process of all the food that's in your body so it can get that toxin out. When I learned that, I was like, yikes, why would I be intentionally putting something in my body that it sees as a toxin? And that slows down your metabolism. In addition to that, it's truly empty calories. It's really not carbs or fat or protein. And so we're taking away what could be real carbs or fat and filling it up with like empty calories. Not only that, but it tends to lead to other poor choices, including maybe more empty calories. Like, you know, how you always feel like, oh, now I should order nachos or pizza or something if I've been drinking, or staying up too late really affects your sleep. Lots of cons, to be honest. But if you want to have a drink, I really recommend go 1-for-1 water with alcohol. Make a personal rule saying my limit is 2 drink max, 1 drink max, whatever it is. And then pick like a go-to mocktail that you can show up with ingredients at parties or order at a bar so that you don't feel like you're missing out when other people are having a cocktail. Okay, ladies, that is all I have for tonight. I hope this is really helpful. Really excited to check in next week and see how you're doing, how you're feeling when you are hitting your water goal without drinking during your meals and really increasing that fiber. So like always, I'll be in touch. Please reach out to me if you have any questions, and have a great week. Bye.